Today, I want to welcome Paul Graham. He is a growth strategist with EG Capital Holdings. He's also a serial entrepreneur, tax strategist, and author who helps investors and business owners scale wealth, cut tax burden, and build something that matters. And I tell you what, I can't think of anything more that most business owners want to build other than something that matters, something that lives beyond themselves. Over the last 10 years, Paul has co-founded an exited AI-driven SaaS company and a service company. He's advised Fortune 500 fintech firms, and he was the managing partner for an oil and gas asset management working alongside high net worth investors and family offices. Paul, welcome.
Craig, it's great to be here, especially on a nice, hot Austin day.
Yeah. So we're in Austin, basically off the same road, probably 30 minutes apart or so. Um, but yeah, it's been a weird year in Austin. It's I've been here 22 years, and this is the most humid year I remember.
I uh I remember a couple years ago where it was supposed to be like 100 days of over 100, and I was like, "Oh, okay, sounds good." And this might be every year, but it's just like short-term, memory with some of this. And it's like, okay. And I remember there were times where it was like, "Oh no, it's still over 100. Oh, it's still like this hot, this humid." Truly, I grew up in Colorado and I didn't look at the weather. Like I'm not good at looking at the weather because it changed all the time. And
Yeah.
so, yes, it might be humid today, it might be humid tomorrow, but I'll be like, "Yeah, it's nice out." Like let me just maybe not go out in the sun for as long or things like that. So I really just enjoy every day I can, especially the days I'm on boats. So
Yeah. Be on the boat. You go out Lake Travis or
whichever one's open, right? We had, additional rain come through, right? So that changed things. But yeah, mainly Travis, not as much Lake Austin. Um, Truly, there's no discrepancy on which lake, I'm open to going. Lakes. I don't want to say lakes are lakes because that's not the case. Again, in Colorado, there are some lakes that are just like not ideal. Um, but the lakes here in Texas specifically are incredible. I have a couple short-term rentals I own, but one of them is also in Canyon Lake, and that's
oh yeah.
beautiful water. It's, I believe, one of the only two clear water lakes in Texas besides Possum Kingdom. And so, yeah, all lakes in Texas, I think are good lakes. So very happy for any of them.
Well, and I know Canyon Lake's been running really low for a number of years, and I think they just got filled up for the first time in a while.
Yeah, they got filled up, and I think there were some areas that got like over flooded or also had some issues too, especially like downstream. My property's on the south side, about maybe like a half mile or so from several different boat ramps, and so there was no impact, right? But definitely along the riverside, I believe there were issues that people had, but it's unfortunate. Also, just it's kind of what you get for the longest time in Austin, right? People didn't have lake houses; they just had a barren lake bed behind their house, right? And they just had a house. And so, with the additional rain, they now have a lake house. I forget how much the water rose specifically, like Lake Austin, Lake Travis kind of area, but I mean, I think it was like 20, maybe 50 feet. Like it was substantial. So, very thankful for rain.
So I did a calculation at one point. Lake Travis ended up being about 3.5 feet above full,
Okay.
and I'm downstream. I was trying to figure out how much water they were about to send my way. That 3.5 feet represented 22 billion gallons of water that were all headed my way. And obviously there was a lot more. We now have, I'm right next to the Colorado River, my neighborhood is,
Okay.
and we now have a beach. We have a outright beach that wasn't there a month ago. And it's all that sand that just came downriver towards us.
Man, I mean, it's positive. It's the silver lining of sorts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm loving it. You said something in the green room that struck me. You said you've not had one concussion or two concussions. You've had seven. Is that right?
Yeah, and even as I was saying it, I was like, there's a notepad on my computer of me noting like, how many and sort of which ones, what they were about. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a combination of, if you will, series of unfortunate events. I wouldn't say I'm super extreme within sports or risk taking. I'm more of a calculated risk type of person. And even this idea of like, risk is just not knowing the inputs and not controlling the outcome as we
Hmm.
think about maybe like a wealth management or business sort of perspective. But yeah, I mean, there were two specifically that really changed how I I view myself, what I maybe think of the world, or yeah, different things that have come up. But yeah, it's just kind of been a little bit of my story. So.
Well, uh, what caused them, or at least what are the most interesting concussions? What happened?
Most interesting concussion. I'll start with I slipped on black ice maybe when it was like in third grade. Went to the nurse basically, and I was in the grand scheme of things fine, but I was smart and I realized that like, oh hey, if I just said one or two words, I could go home for the day. So it wasn't bad or terrible. I was pretty conscious with everything. But just kind of recognize that. And so especially being in Colorado, noticing that just because you see ground, it doesn't mean there's not ice on it. And so being aware of that. I'd say the most notable one was I was snowboarding. Probably should have not gotten an additional run, and I was wearing a helmet, but I hit my head when I fell back. Knocked unconscious for about 20 minutes. Had friends there at the time, and I was just like, "Hey, my head hurts. I'm just gonna like hang out here." They were both lifeguards, and they're just like, "Okay." So ski patrol came and all this stuff. Hey, we'll let you down the mountain. Like, I mean, okay. And I distinctly remember, hey, asking like, "Hey, what side are you gonna be on?" Because as you go down, like your head's to one side, right? If I have any problems or questions or whatnot. And yeah, my friends later were like teasing me. They're like, "Dude, like, come, like, what?" It's just like that is a legitimate question in a, in an issue, right? So those are the most like notable, and I would say the one that was like the most. And I was trying to think of like, do I use the word fun, but unique? I would say by far and away. I played lacrosse for most of adolescent youth, a little bit of soccer too, but I was at a lacrosse training camp, and there were some major league lacrosse players there, shooting really fast, trying to see how fast they could shoot the ball. Everyone was sitting down, and I was like, I'm gonna stand up so I can see this. Well, one of the guys ripped it off the pipe, hit 96 miles an hour, went straight to my noggin on the left side. I don't know if I like turned around and then fell down, but that was definitely one that was more public and sort of like scene sort of thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to finish the camp and all these things, right? But then the next year I came to camp and it's like, hey, if you're going to be shooting, you have to wear a helmet. And everyone's like, this sucks. This is stupid. Like, why is this? It's like, oh, I heard someone got hurt. It's like, someone did get injured. Yes, they're okay. But yeah. So, just random things of life that have come to be through just living. So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I saw that was interesting is, you've done a number of things, had multiple exits,
Hmm.
and but way back in your history, you worked for Enterprise,
Yes, that I did.
and I know they have a really rigorous, they have a specific formula about who they bring on and what they
Hmm.
expect. What was that like?
So, for context, that was my junior year of college. And my freshman year of college, I ran a residential painting business, right? Um, and mainly exterior for about 2 years. And so I had a lot of like the traits and qualities they were looking for. They came to, Enterprise came to, school to, share about, what's life like, how they, train and think, all these things, right? And so just the backstory is to say, like, what that was like was taking initiative. And how I got that opportunity is Ian was a local manager at the time. And I was just like, hey, like, I want to do something like this. When can I do this? I don't graduate for another year, year and a half. I ended up graduating a semester early. What opportunities do you have for me right now? Right? Hey, when it's your junior year, let's talk. I had an internship that kind of fell through for the summer, and I was like, forget this. I want to do this. Email, talk to him, whatever. Um, and lo and behold, I clicked some wrong button or something like that, whatever. But eventually was actually hired as not necessarily like an MT, but it was like a client service associate, where basically had like I had the exact same like responsibilities. There just wasn't like fireable thresholds that I had to hit. And so it was incredible to be able to see how you can be thrown into a fire that has really good systems, as opposed to, if you will, sometimes if you've had jobs and it's just like, hey, go do this stuff, right? And you're just like, okay, but how or what or what's the definition of good, all these things. And so it's fascinating to be able to be thrown in and be like, great, welcome, pick up the phone. And it's like, okay, hello, type thing. And just be around that sort of environment, people, that level of service. It was 5 stars or nothing from, customers. And I mean, in some ways, going out of your way, but also fulfilling on what you said you were going to do, right? So Enterprise has a slogan of like, "We'll pick you up," and so some people would drop their cars off at 6:50 p.m. when the store closes at 7. They're like, "Hey, can you give me a ride home?" It's like, well, the slogan's not really like give you a ride home, but like we want service. Like, let's see. I mean, there were times I drove like half hour, 45 minutes to get to someone's house, right? So my point is just like that's what it was like, and that ability to have some of those traits, those mindset, that aspect, that company culture, and those systems that help facilitate that and keep that together. And people either really sank or swam. And truly, maybe they swam really well and then they got recruited to other companies. I know companies who specifically only target, current enterprise employees because of that. So,
As a business owner, I think for any business owner, one of the best compliments you could ever get paid is to be a target of recruiters. Uh,
mm,
it speaks to me. It says you're doing the right thing when people are targeting you for recruiting. I remember there was a email that Steve Jobs sent the CEO of Adobe,
hmm
and Steve said, at Apple, it's been our policy to not recruit from Adobe because obviously Adobe was a strategic partner for Apple, especially
hmm
in the early days. He said it's always been policy at Apple to not recruit from Adobe. Uh, but it seems like Adobe has made it a policy to recruit from us. One of us should change our policy. Who do you think that should be? And that was the entire email. But, you know, obviously Apple was, to be able to poach people from Apple, that was a huge win
hmm
because of that. And I think the fact that I mean, Enterprise really does stand out that they've built a system and they've
yeah.
built a culture. But anyway, that just caught my eye. I mean, as you're telling the story, I I'm really seeing your passion for entrepreneurs because you were an entrepreneur before you even graduated college.
Yeah, I mean, truly, as I describe it, it's like I have a servant heart to help others, and I do that through entrepreneurship. So when I was in third grade, I got sent to the principal's office because I was quote unquote selling keychains to kids in class. They were giving me 50 cents. I was going to the grocery store. I was getting them keychains. I was bringing them back. I told the principal, I'm not selling anything. I'm just helping people. My mom said, hey, let's not. Oh, okay. All right, fine. But I mean, same thing. I helped raise money for 9/11 or Hurricane Katrina. I was a kid. Made t-shirts, made little, plastic kind of wristbands, right? And just really found that like truly how businesses scale to the nth degree is through service, not just heart posture, not just systems, but ultimately solving people's problems. And that, each of those things too, that's how companies I've seen exponentially grow versus sales. Hey, we have really good sales, program system, et cetera. It doesn't create as much word of mouth. It doesn't, all these things. And so meaning like as I've been entrepreneurial with the heart of, being of service, I've just been able to meet incredibly interesting people, regardless of their net worth or company size, that are, truly just aligned on how can we help more customers better, right? And then there's also a value exchange with that. And so meaning like it's also been fun, right? With business where it's like, oh wow, people are thanking me left and right or doing this, or people are like advocates for our product. There was a fiber internet company I worked in outside of Houston for a little bit, and people were so like ecstatic about the brand and the company that they would go door knock on their neighbors to say, "Hey, like you should get this. Like we need this many people to petition to come through so that we can get, this fiber internet within our, street or our subdivision or whatever." And they would create their own t-shirts to then come to events, and sometimes we would give them t-shirts and be like, "All right, go talk to your neighbors," kind of thing. Like that level of, again, culture and ability to help serve is just something that I've seen. I've definitely done a lot of things, right, like you shared in the intro. I've also just been curious and have just seized opportunity along the way.
Well, one of the things you said that I really liked was it's about fulfilling, it's not about selling, it's about fulfilling needs. And
Hmm.
one of my sayings is your customer needs will be fulfilled, hopefully by you.
Totally. Yep.
You know,
Absolutely. I mean, we could think of poaching too, right? Hey,
yeah,
what's another way to get customers? Hey, we're similar to us. Like, how's that going? Oh, it's going okay. Well, would you like to have a conversation about how it could go differently? Yeah, I'd be open to it.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, I think it's the key. I'm going through a current frustration with FedEx.
Mhm.
Um, they, and by your laugh, I guess you probably have had some, but they used to be such a great company, and they invented a whole industry that didn't exist. Now I can't get them to deliver packages to my house.
Oh,
They deliver them to another house 3.5 miles away.
oh,
And they know they're doing it. Their drivers tell them they're doing it, and there's nothing I can do to get it changed. And it's infuriating. And the impact has been not only do I not use FedEx, but I avoid buying from people that ship via FedEx. But it's what you're talking about that there's a need. I have a simple need. When I order something, I want it to come to my doorstep rather
hmm,
than somebody else's doorstep 3.5 miles away.
hmm,
Predictable. It's always the same house. They always take it to the same house. Um, the the guy in that house, I had a Sam's Club delivery that went there. The guy that lives in that house, when I walk up to the house to try to retrieve packages, I smell pot emanating from the house.
oh,
And one time I had some food from Sam's Club delivered there. And apparently that was one day he had the munchies. He just ate
oh
all my
no.
food. But they're failing, at least for me, they're failing because they're not fulfilling the customer needs.
Yeah. I mean, in the age of AI and automation, how do you get heard, right? How do you feel seen? How do you feel understood? And that is I mean, opportunity, right, to really get customer feedback, and also, a detriment. Now, most of my career is basically within software companies, working with feedback loops, customer onboarding, data intelligence, if you will, to optimize, reduce cost of acquisition, increase long lifetime value of customer, add additional products type of thing, right? And so that is then just to say, like, especially in the age of AI and social media, like, what will the future then hold when it's like, no, 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 I'm having this issue. And it's like, no, you're not having an issue. It's like, no, I am, right? Like, imagine being a child even and being like, hey, like, I need this or I want this. And it's like not being able to be heard or understood. Like, those emotions are core things that beyond just go to the service of what you need, but also just a recognition of who you are as well.
Yeah, and I think culturally we're having a pandemic of aloneness.
Mm,
You know, I think that's why OnlyFans is a successful business. Um, it's I think, there's a lot of businesses where people just feel alone. And if you can
hmm,
take that away, for your customers, take that sense away from feeling alone, from feeling unheard,
hmm.
That's massive. I love the way you're thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it's also just service, mindset, right? And just being, Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, has an article that says, do things that don't scale, right? That ability to send out personalized messages to people, right? Not
Yeah.
just the answer isn't automate everything, if you will. Because, there's different detriments to that, right? There are some things to automate, but if you're talking to robots, sure. But you're talking to people, like at some point, people just want people, no matter what your product or service is. They just want that reassurance, that connection, that, facilitation. We weren't made to talk to robots of sorts. They help us, certainly. But, the generations before us didn't have it in our DNA to talk to robots. So.
Yeah. So what do you do for businesses now?
Yeah, so just being a serial entrepreneur, going through the trials and challenges of scaling my own companies, maybe getting funding, looking what M&A is, all these things. I now work at EG Capital Holdings, which basically helps business owners reduce taxes. Then once those taxes are reduced, well, how can we reinvest them in the company? How could that maybe help support my personal lifestyle, and what that, really looks like? So really, it's just if someone's an entrepreneur and they're, have big dreams, and they find themselves through taxes, through selling, or even through their own personal investments, like feeling frustrated or stuck or annoyed on getting to that next level, we basically have a team that will come with and help create kind of the next season of life for you. There's a lot of small services that we can do, but those are the three main things that we talk to business owners on: reducing taxes, optimizing your personal investments, and ensuring when you're looking to sell, or even the age old pass, right? When you're looking to pass, we'll also do estate planning to ensure that your business and personal entities and the whole ecosystem are aligned. So it's kind of like founder's best friend, right? As you're scaling your company, you really have people who can help you along the way.
Yeah. What are some what are some common misperceptions or wrong beliefs that people have that you encounter um, that keep them from doing the things they should be doing?
Um, so truly what we offer is like what's called a fractional family office service. And without going into all the detail of the different terminology of family office and all this stuff, it's really just to say like we provide a service as a team, right? As opposed to just an individual. And so when I say the word family office, people think of, oh, a single family office who has $300 million plus. It's like, yes, that type of entity has all those people within their own company. Yes. But my point is like there is a mindset of maybe an early seven-figure business owner, sometimes eight-figure business owners as well, where it's like, hey, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve that. I can't afford that. I shouldn't do that yet. There's all these like limitations that they're putting on themselves, when in reality, it's like, no, 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 you do need this. There's a guy in town who has gone from one food truck to now four and is now signing his first lease for a brick and mortar property. He's gone from 0 to 2.5 million in the span of like 2 years. And I was talking to him about this, and he was just like, "No, my taxes are fine, my investments are fine, and I don't need any family office stuff." And it's like you just said you have this pain point that and you're unsure about this, but you also want to scale. But how? Like, have you scaled a business before? Not to these levels. Okay, like what does that look like going from 2 to 20? Oh, you want a nine-figure valued company? Like, have you done that before? And so again, it's just kind of this idea and realization of like there's this proverb on if you want to go far, like go with others, right? But if you don't, like you'll go alone. That's truly what I see, is that people who go from 0 to 7 figures always do it themselves typically, right? They don't really have a team around them to really scale, right? They just kind of have they are dictating the rules to other people. They aren't having other people tell them what to do. As you
Mhm.
go to eight, but especially going 8 to 9, you're hiring that CFO who's saying, "Hey, no, we need to do this. Why should we do that? well, I have 20 years of experience. I've done this in two other companies, and I'm concerned about these two things. I think we need to do this, and we need to do this today. I actually already executed on it, and like I'll see you in the meeting next Tuesday, right? Thanks, right? Very different
Yeah.
scenarios, but it takes
Yeah.
that business owner that awareness to really be like, hey, like they may not be the best, they may not be in the best role, they may not be the best fit, they may not have the best education, best experience, all these different things, right? But it's just, are you building a business or are you helping serve more people, right? Is ultimately what I come down to. If you want to help serve more people to go from 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, here's kind of the playbook or ways to do it. And the ways that we can help, but ultimately you're the one who is helping yourself. If you're not willing to do some of these things, like your business will stay where it's at, your personal lifestyle will stay where it's at. So,
Yeah. Um, what are some of the top scaling? Where's some of the challenges when somebody starts scaling? What are some things that they run into, maybe business wise, but also personally? What do they run into personally?
I mean, I would really just say it's like the limits that we place on ourselves for what we think is possible, and not thinking in 10x sort of results, and then also not playing to win the championship, if you will, as opposed to playing, the game. Those are, I would say, the main starter points because then everything else is true, right? If you don't believe it's possible and it can be done, well, certainly it's not going to. A fish didn't climb a tree because it thought it was impossible. It did it because it had the skills, knowledge, and resources for it too. It also had the belief that it could, right? So as you picture just a fish climbing a tree, like it's a crazy thought, right? But that is just it had the belief and then it executed on these things. And so that's really what I would say is like how business owners really kind of get stuck is first with themselves and what they believe is possible, and then and even if they deserve it, and then it's more how does it become? Is it because of your action? Is it because of someone else's action? And kind of the idea, and there's a book on this, right? But who, not how. Who can help do it for you? Who can do it alongside you? Who can, teach you how to do it? That's just like, basic principles. And then doing it and seeing what happens, kind of step two and three, right? Because it could work out better than you can imagine, right? So
Well, and I think one of the fears that people have is as they scale and they're pulling in other people, they have an identity that their fingerprint that they're trying to leave on the business.
totally.
And I think that's the fear. What would you say to those folks?
Um, yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's just like, what are you optimizing for? There was a gentleman I interviewed actually on my podcast a couple weeks ago. He's had, he wanted to have a net worth of 40 million before he was 40, right? He's had a couple exits, one of which was a $350 million exit. Awesome guy. And he had a mentor of his who scaled a company from zero to $2 billion share this idea of, hey, like, this isn't going to be your only company. This isn't going to be the only thing that you do. And at least for him, that was true. And so that ability to really like remove not even the emotion from it, but really just the awareness of like, hey, there is more, more opportunity, more connection, more possibility, potential. Maybe, you do M&A with another company, whatever the situation is. That then means that like you're less attached to it. And then there's, that opportunity, that thought of maybe taking private equity injection, maybe selling. Maybe it's, hiring a CEO and you become a chief strategy officer. I've seen this firsthand where like someone hired a CEO, they went chief strategy officer, which was kind of like a just, I don't know, makeshift sort of position of sorts. They really stayed in their zone of genius. That company tripled in 18 months. That person made more money than they have in their entire life. They still had, majority share equity ownership of the company. They gave the CEO, cliff standards in terms of how to, earn equity. They got to spend more time with their family. They got to, be again more in their zone of genius. All these things, right? And they got to help more customers and clients, right? And so that just awareness on, hey, I could be the absolute best, but I may need not be the best to continue in this way or down this path or what would really help the business. A business is a living organism, and I think that's one thing I, see is those that go from 7 to 8 or specifically well, yeah, 6 to 7 for sure, but then also 7 to 8, they have such a chokehold and control of like, no, this is mine. I did this. It's my toy. Don't take it away. And it's like, well, what if you could share the toy with others and they got enjoyment from it too? And all these type of, childhood kind of thoughts, if you will, right? That is unlocking truly what could be and not what is, because is has a ceiling. Could be is limitless. So that ability to change, mindset, perspective, strategy, all these different things I said, that's really the difference maker. And there's more on the other side. So it's tough letting go of control, certainly in a lot of ways. It's tough delegating in a lot of ways. But that ability is then, growth, right? I have nieces and nephews. I don't have children, but certainly same sort of idea. Let me delegate this out, do this, right? That also just means I would be a better leader as well. Hey, this is how you do this task. That person can then go do that task 1,000 times and you don't have to think about it again, right? You can obviously see how that builds momentum. And the last thing I'll say on this to finish this thought up is something that was told to me by actually someone who lives here in Austin. He has been a CEO, COO for about 20 years, mainly fractional. And he's like, I don't want to go into a company unless I have a badge or a gun, meaning that I could go to other C-suite or employees and say, hey, we need these things done by this sort of date or time. Is this realistic? How can I help support? Let's get it done. Hey, we had this deadline. It didn't happen. Like, why was that? And work through that. But the idea of just like, let's just, show up and try, really just isn't something that he drives with. And that's just something I've seen too, right? Like if you're not driving results, then you're just participating, you're not winning, or you're not even winning the championship as well. And so that's an interesting thing I think of as someone scaling, hire people and give them a, badge and, really authority to then say, hey, yes, what they say goes, which means you got to hire really good people, right?
Right.
But that is then the crux. But when you do hire really good people, I mean, truly the number of billionaires that I've met, they work 5, 6 hours a day. They have the best integrators. They have the least sense of control. Hey, what do you think we should do? Great. They they live their lives like children, being curious, having others take responsibility, and not in a bad way, but in a meaningful way, right? Making strategic decisions, thinking about things, playing, being curious. Well, what if we did this? Type curiosity, right? Richard Branson certainly changed my mind when I met him. And try to live some of those principles each day. It's tough getting out of our own way. So,
Yeah. Well, Paul, this is really cool. This is really interesting. And I love that what's driven you for throughout your life is the entrepreneurial drive and the desire to serve other entrepreneurs.
mhm.
How can people reach you?
I mean, LinkedIn's a good, resource. I have a website called The Investor's Guide to Joy, where I have a newsletter that, talks about kind of what I do and what I think. Also for those who are like looking to buy businesses as well, that's a good resource. So you should be able to find me just about any social media platform. Paul H. Graham is typically how I am online, just because there's other Paul Grahams. But I'm in Austin, Texas, and yeah, would truly, genuinely want people to just reach out, even if it's just, hey, heard you on the show, right? Because in the age of AI and social media, that ability to connect, to be like, oh yeah, like I listen to a lot of Craig shows, amazing. Like what else do that's a conversation, that's a connection, that's a relationship. It's not just consumption or transactional. So
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on Leaders and Legacies.
thanks, Craig. Appreciate the time.